Hello and welcome to another modeling video. This is Alan from the Man at YouTube with another model video. Today we're going to be looking at the TamiyaBlog with an article titled "The Crisis of Plastic Model Industry" by Nakamura Takihato. I think that's pronounced correctly. This was published shortly on June 27th, 2018, shortly after the Shizuoka hobby show. There is a lot of angst regarding this and hype in the scale modeling world, mostly the military plastic side of things. Not so much Gunpla, though some of the comments made are quite over-exaggerated, being the death of the hobby industry or plastic models not being manufactured anymore. I think this is incorrect. I'll read the article first, followed by my response on Facebook. Then we'll dive into it further. At the 57th Shizuoka Hobby Show held at Twin Menzies in Shizuoka for the 4 days from the 10th to the 13th of May, a press conference was held where the leaders of manufacturers gathered. At the beginning, Shizuoka Model Teaching Cooperative representative Mr. Shuaku Tamiya, president of Tamiya Model, talked about the current state of the model industry. To my surprise, as far as the plastic model is concerned, Shizuoka Hobby Show is now the most fulfilling show in the world. Previously, the Messen held in Nuremberg, Germany, lived being said to be the world's largest hobby show. But with regards to the plastic model mainly being of the economic downturn in Southern Europe, the spot is lacking in spirit, it is said that it is. On the contrary, Shizuoka Hobby Show says that due to the collection of buyers from Southern Asia, which has shown remarkable growth recently, Twin Menzies, which has been held for many years, is in a state of capacity shortage. The Asian market, including China and Japan, seems to be booming now, and it seems that the hobby show is being held in Shanghai and Beijing, etc. In China, many buyers in Southeast Asia countries gather in this Shizuoka because there are distrust of mutual makers and no new products are displayed in the show. That is the driving force to push Shizuoka Hobby Show to the world's best show. It is certainly the world's best trade fair as a plastic model show globally. Also, looking at miniature cars, a number of brands, mainly in China, are entering the Japanese markets. However, even if it is a plastic model or a miniature car, there is no doubt that it has come to a corner. As a big news in the model industry, a company named Hobbyco, a big North American distributor, applied for the application of the Corporate Rehabilitation Act in January 2018 and was effectively sold. Along with this, in Japan, manufacturer Hasegawa Co. Limited has hit hard by a relationship that has exported plastic models throughout this country through this hobby. Furthermore, the long-established store of Pla-Mol, which was Hasegawa's import source to the Japanese market, the level was the relationship which was acquired by Hobbyco as mentioned above, and this also stopped production in April 2018. The current level says that all dyes and molds are being transferred to the German level. As a result, as a model manufacturer in the US, only a few brands including the AMT and the Round 2 survive. It is a situation where you cannot see the future how the American level will go. Incidentally, under the umbrella level, the brand called Monogram, which blew the world in Japan in the 1960s, was also included. On the other hand, in Europe, there are model makers at the top of the German level. For example, the largest hobby maker in the UK, Hornby, with plastic model brands Airfix under the umbrella will also be transferred to Phoenix Asset Management Company in 2017. Management has changed with the sales of shares. The management of Ely in France has been changed many times. Now the management is continued under the new owner in 2016. The feeling of tapering is extraordinary. There are emerging plastic model makers in China, especially Macau, especially the transporter with mold factories in Macau has made a breakthrough brand and has grown rapidly to threaten Japanese manufacturers. Even in the Japanese market, Kyosho, who swept the market with radio-controlled computers, worsened management, sold all the shares to Shinsei Bank Investment Fund, Reprobant HD, and plans to regenerate the project itself is continuing. Practically, it's moved to China. Change in the world of miniature cars also stand out, as it used to be. Mini cars are no longer being sold, and if you make a mold for production of one model, you are in a situation where it cannot be sold enough for its mold cost to be made. For this reason, the resin model is making a difference with replacing the die casting mold that requires a mold. When comparing die casting and resin, you cannot make a gimmick that was possible with die casting, such as opening a door or opening a hood. For example, with a resin, there is also a fear of deformation due to age deterioration. However, it is also possible to produce small quantities accordingly. Many manufacturers are turning their attention to resin models at present. Especially recently, the quality has dramatically improved, and the production method is also changing due to the appearance of 3D printers. Of course, it is said to the manufacturer he seems to feel a big appeal to die casting, but at present it sends that there is a fear of breakage of profit and it is impossible to get out at hand. As you know, the plastic model also needs a mold by injection molding, and it is necessary to make a number more than a certain number for its profitability. But it is difficult to clear it. And when it comes to miniature cars, it raises a new mold. The fact that the number of plastic models produced is decreasing. Consumer preferences have also changed. It is certain that few children are interested in making things. Tamiya also admits the fact that consumers in the hobby industry are aging. Even if you look at the hobby show, it is remarkable that many of their end users occupy most middle-aged elderly people. Wherever the hobby that makes up things will be lost as it is. I feel like I am having a real turn at this moment. Specialized the talk with the car and attracted the attention stock of this year's hobby show. Plastic model is incredible. Source in Japanese language by the Response Emerging Media. This is my response posted June 29th, Facebook on the McConaughey page. It is being shared in this video to widen the audience. I would have to disagree with this article's conclusion and express we are in a golden age of the hobby where it can only grow and expand in a different direction to cater for the consumer end. I am glad to see Tamiya and other giants acknowledge China's technology and fresh offerings in the industry as a threat, plus changing demographic building as well as 3D printing. It is correct giant steel dies are required in making plastic models in large runners, but the resin garage kit scene is booming again, as well as through my injection molding research. Smaller runners in smaller batches can be made by micro manufacturers and small businesses like those in Asia and Eastern Europe, such as S-Model, Ace and others. Companies like Airfix, Tamiya and Revell are coming to an end. They catered for children as toys pre-tech age and today middle-income Asians, retired Westerners, middle-aged workers looking for a change of pace is the new market, which requires a new take in engaging the modelling community online. The older guard are still re-releasing kits from the 80s and increasing the price, while sliding molds and multimedia details are offered as standard by new players. If risks are not taken like Tommy and Bandai, then the old major players will die, which is not a bad thing necessarily. Drama in Germany with the UFO kit being banned, and the US wing of Revell spends the end of models made in the West, plus cheaper manufacturing costs in the East as comparison. This is a change we have all seen written on the wall long ago. I would not fear an aging demographic, as new family men taking a break from social outings and retired people looking to replace work with a hobby will create a constant stream of new blood, or what they call old or aged people, who will be entering the hobby for the first time or returning to it. It is still important to include children and teens, as they may only build for a short period of time but may return later on in life. I will not have access to exporters' sale figures, but the local scene in my city is stronger than ever, with myself entering the industry 1 foot at a time. I do agree that Shizuoka is taking the stage over Nuremberg, and that what was on show is absolutely amazing. I cannot wait to see what new ways we can consume plastic models, share them in a community, and how trends as well as technology will impact this growing and expanding industry. Airfix, Tamiya and Revell, if you do go, we will miss you and we will remember you. Thank you for being there at the start. Written and published by yours truly. Now for the open discussion elements, I'll talk about one irrelevant topic and a few that were mentioned in the main Tamiya article, which may have gone over some of your heads, though looking at the brands and the news breaking over the past couple of years will fall into place and make sense. June 19th, 2018, reported by the Daily Mail Co. I would consider it an embellished news source, though this has been mirrored on other publications that are far more well researched, as well as modelling news sources. I've confirmed this with the Revell catalogue, that they have taken down their Flying Saucer 70-second model kit, the Humbrol 2, which is labelled across all of these publications as a Nazi flying saucer due to the World War II military markings on it. It is a fantasy-esque sci-fi device based off the wonder weapons that Germany has created, though due to being a teaching aid for children, it was reported that they may misbelieve that the Germans have won or fled into space, which is fairly ridiculous. Now, under no circumstances I ever put any sorts of political or real-world issues, point of views, opinions in this YouTube channel, as I believe it's for all to embrace, enjoy, and utilise. However, once actions cross over into the modelling world, and there is a case of this first time incident leading on to more cases of scale model subject censorship, it is unfortunate that it has been reported the government was asked to take this product off the market or banned, though I'm more of the belief through other sources that interest groups posing as customers bullied Revell to remove it of their own accord. That is a bit murky, as many old modelling subjects are focused around a historical mindset and subject. A lot of subjects that are already moulded and released are of controversial topics such as World War II, Cold War, all those sort of things with the correct historical markings and display in a neutral sense. I can see how there is a belief that they are promoting Nazism or communism or whatnot, and that could lead to a fear of further subject censorship, which I'm absolutely against. However, it's not seen the same from the non-modelling point of view. This is something we need to be very, very careful from Western manufacturers, especially groups and communities, clubs, shops to boot. My greatest fear and hopes is scale modelling is not targeted as a political front or movement and is attacked as a soft target over actual threatening organisations. To my military modelling friends, please be very, very careful. We're all representing this element of the hobby. Let's try not to push it any further, but at the same time, point out the fallacies that are put upon us. Revell does seem to be on its last legs, as reported by Scale Auto magazine. All sources down below. The bankruptcy of Hobbyco has led to Revell's assets being brought by a German investment group listed in court documents as Blitz 18th 3rd 13. It is based in the Munich. Blitz is also bought Hobbyco Germany. The sales was approved by a US bankruptcy court Friday, April 13th. Sale price of 3.9 million. Pretty much in short, Revell distribution and manufacturing has ceased in the United States. Molds are being shipped to Germany to continue business there and will need to be imported. Also, the importation of Japanese models are also being ceased in the United States. Thus, the final nail in their coffin for the United States modelling industry. There is also noticeable posts and observation by modelers in the US of brick-and-mortar stores closing, other offers being far too expensive, and everything being needed to be purchased online, which isn't too bad for kits, though very hard for supplies, tools, paints, consumables, that sort of thing. One observation I've heard from people in the industry, from distributors to stores, is one of the biggest threats to brick and mortar stores is competitive selling in parallel importers, as well as price gouging and competitive price dropping. Tamiya has pointed out in the US that they will cut distribution or wholesaling if stores are seen to sell lower than the recommended lowest price. One of my biggest problems with Revell falling over is the US distribution of the old AMT Star Wars kits, as well as the fine mold offerings. With no more manufacturing occurring over there, I wonder if they'll pop up in Germany, or under the original wishes by Disney, they'll be destroyed. This would be a very sad state of affairs. Now heading to the UK, the Holdings Hornby, the train set manufacturer, has bought out Humbrol a few years back when that went bankrupt, which bought out Airfix a few years prior to that, after that went bankrupt. As each of these hobby companies in the United Kingdom are cannibalizing each other and growing bigger and bigger, so does its burden, debt and other problems. The UK hobby community holds a lot of pride, as well as some media personalities, in keeping it alive and purchasing paints, kits, train sets and whatnot, though with the very few new offerings and the constant re-release of the same kits dating back all the way from the 70s and 60s, there's been very little change in the whole scene. Evidently, the wholesalers in Australia are pushing up paint prices for their paints and kits at a much higher rate than we've ever really seen before for exactly what we've been offered in the past. Humbrol has also been plagued with a bad formula and batch of paints many years ago, also hampering its reputation and ability to sell its product. A link to The Guardian down below pretty much has a very quick overview of this history, as well as sales trends and interests in the UK and whatnot. It also points out that the company is 117 years old, pretty much dating back to injection molding, combs, and other general engineering offers way back in the day when this was cutting edge technology. Now, how the industry has been carrying on from back to the day to today is the utilization of these very large yet basic machines called injection molding machines. They take a gigantic steel, stainless, or most of the time carbon steel mold, press it into a very, very tight vise, and with a heated screw, plastic pellets and compressed air, inject molten hot liquid plastic right into that die. The plastic's very cheap at about under $10 a kilo, and a runner practically costs a few cents plus labor and whatnot. The most expensive element is the engineering, manufacturing, transport, storage of these huge molds that need to take such large pressure. Looking on Taobao, Alibaba, all those sort of websites, India Marts, these machines are getting cheaper and cheaper in Asia, and you can buy second-hand ones, repair them, whatnot, for next to nothing. These molds are made by milling steel, and when you're milling steel, it's a long, hard, difficult process, though once you get your hands on the CAD files, and if you choose to mill an inferior metal such as aluminium, you can do a much shorter run, costing next to nothing. This is where we're getting not only a rise in bootleg models, but also smaller manufacturers making their own offerings and starting their own businesses with an engineering background, as well as an interest in scale modeling, and contributing to the industry with all sorts of wonderful offerings targeting the Asian Chinese market, mostly with subjects that are interested to them historically. With smaller molds, you're cutting back in costs, thus leading to smaller manufacturer runs, where the old, almost 115-year tradition since Airfix, once you invested so much money in a mold, you must sell X number of units to profit. And with sales plummeting due to a larger variety, this is where Airfix and all that is struggling. On the other hand, when we go to Gunpla and the Gundam modeling industry, Bandai is constantly combating and constantly making into the news the shutting down, suing and paying out of manufacturers that are retooling their offering or creating molds quite cheaply and selling their same products of Gundam, Star Wars kits, whatnot, at a far cheaper and more competitive cost. This is not endangering Bandai now, but it is possible to see the threat in the future if not dealt with in a timely manner, as well as expanding their own product in an affordable manner in the Asian market. But it's not all doom and gloom. A few years ago, company from the UK, Games Workshop, was on its last legs and just about to close its doors and shedding all of its assets, stores and whatnot. Through leadership change and the reoffering of older games models through plastic, as well as the retooling of a lot of other subjects, were managed to rebrand and rebuild themselves in a way where they've got soaring profits and pretty much doing better than it's ever has in the past since the Lord of the Rings Hobbit era. Keep in mind that they are selling less models, making games far smaller, requiring less models, and still selling IP such as books, video games, and whatnot. My personal opinion and observation of the state of the hobby is not so much one of doom and gloom, where the hobby's going to shrink, cease, run out of models or whatnot. Even Tamiya said that there will still be a presence of model building. However, the size could change. What I see is a changing of the guard, where we're going to see a different face and group of emerging larger companies and just a ton of smaller companies putting out very small offerings in very, very small runs, targeting more micro communities rather than just everybody looking at a single catalog or 5 catalogs and only choosing from those. I will rephrase this again. We are living in the golden age of modeling. There are more subjects, more manufacturers, more models, styles, methods snapped together, pre-colored, things that are closer to toys, things that are further away from toys. Bolts is getting popular again, wooden puzzles are getting popular, automated robotic models, RC, papercraft. It's just sort of constantly expanding and going into different directions, thus forming small micro communities that are breaking off and may appear to be shrinking. But even with the emergence of 3D printing, which is modeling in its own right, some achieve a perfect print, other process paint them and whatnot. Even with its shortfalls and not quite achieving the level of moulding, changing of nozzles and SAL is a huge game changer, however. With experience and evidence provided, I think there is a huge case to being very optimistic from the point of view of a consumer, a modeler, or even someone who's just casually passing through the hobby. Very excited. It's the perfect time to review YouTube, run blogs, run a store, do stuff online, just keep up with the changing times, and I think there's going to be a lot of fun to be had. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, if you have a different opinion, let us know in the comment section. It's good to pretty much take it from as many point of views as possible, but I think the most important thing is not to fearmonger, not to declare the demise of the hobby. I think in the end, the big companies are just going for a profit grab or a last hurrah. Vote with your wallets, not with your hearts.